The ancient Sumerians were an ancient civilization who presented monumental and innovative ideas that we still use, apply, and study today. Without the advancements of the Sumerians, our world would look very different from how we know it. Some people refer to the Sumerians as the creators of civilization as modern humans understand it. Based in Mesopotamia, the Sumerians lived between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. It was here that their great leaps in languages, governing, and architecture forever changed human history. Sumer is the earliest civilization we were able to tie to Mesopotamia, a region full of historical promise. The Sumerians were around between the Chalcolithic and early Bronze Ages, meaning they were making such fantastic accomplishments from just 4,500 to 1900 BC. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be taking a look into the Sumerian beliefs to truly see how advanced this ancient civilization was. The origins of human beings according to the Sumerians. There are countless different stories of creation, with each culture, religion, and civilization having their own ideas. Whether you believe in the Big Bang Theory, a religious deity creating the universe, or have a different understanding of the creation of the world, how we each believe that the world was created is a fundamental part of our faith and beliefs. The same was true for the Sumerians. Unfortunately, for modern historians, we have very little evidence to support theories we have pieced together as to how this society saw the world. In other words, very little literature from the Sumerian era survived, meaning we cannot read lengthy descriptions of what could function as a holy text. We are fortunate enough to have a few segments from tablets engraved with small sections we think refer to a time before there were gods. However, when we are forming a picture from such small clues, the information is not necessarily wholly accurate. Throughout Mesopotamia as a whole, literary evidence seems to suggest that individual gods were associated with various natural forces, resulting in a number of myths interacting with one another as opposed to a belief in a singular story of creation. Whereas today, with Christianity for example, the one Christian god created the world, or in Hinduism it was Brahma, the god of creation, who created the universe. The Sumerians and many Mesopotamian civilizations had a number of coexisting deities. The first assumption that modern historians believe the Sumerians held is that the gods are simply older than the world, and therefore the formation of the gods themselves is not discussed, at least not according to literature we have found. A few of the tablet sections mentioned above do tell a story before Earth was formed, though it does not describe the gods themselves. There was no moonlight or sunlight, meaning that everything was in darkness. The Earth was described as green, and the ground did hold water, but no plants grew. This description is derived from a 3rd millennium Sumerian poem, a particularly rare find, though some 2nd millennium artifacts do contain further descriptions as to how Earth and life were formed. Gilgamesh and the Netherworld, as it is called today, is one relatively well-known Sumerian myth. This tale tells us that there was once a time when both Earth and the heavens were one, though they were eventually torn apart. The gods, known collectively as the Great Gods, once humanity was created, each took on various roles to maintain control over the separate realms, Earth, the heavens, and the Netherworld respectively. According to one Sumerian poem, Enki and Ninmah, the gods of lower status, the ones who were tasked with the physical creation of the earth, began to complain to Nama, the mother. Nama then asked Enki, her son, to find an alternative solution so that the gods were not forced to continue to work so laboriously. Enki then took some clay and put it inside of her womb, ready to then birth the first ever humans. Despite this clay sculpture, the creation of humans comes in an entirely different story. This Sumerian poem, the Song of the Hoe, described the god Enlil, the god who is considered responsible for the division of earth and the heavens as creating humankind. The creation of humans was driven with a purpose for us to provide for the great gods. The idea of humans catering to the gods is a recurring theme throughout a lot of Mesopotamian literature. Some other myths and poems written by the Sumerians surrounding the creation of the world as we know it include the debate between grain and sheep, which tells us how the gods gave us humans quite simply grain and sheep to eat. Before this, The earth was barren and a wasteland by today's standards. Humans wandered naked, drinking from ditches and eating merely grass. Similarly, the debate between bird and fish says that we did not have drinking water until Enki, the Lord of Wisdom, allowed water to flow from mountains. Another poem, Enki and the World Order, details the organization of our planet, and some speak of hierarchy even between the gods. Within many of the Sumerian creation beliefs, there are some clear similarities and links to be drawn towards some modern-day religions. Equally, many of the poems and myths do seem fairly unique to the Sumerian civilization. The great number of poems and stories interact with each other in a way that may appear entirely alien to a number of people in our modern society. We most likely will never know just how accurate the information we have is due to there being so little preserved literature. But nonetheless, the research gained from studying the past is invaluable and will show us just how advanced ancient societies really were. The mystery of the Anunnaki. Many religions and cultures around the world today worship a number of deities, not just the one. The Sumerians were no different. One particular group of deities that were worshipped were known as the Anunnaki, and it was not just the Sumerians who worshipped these figures. The Akkadians, Assyrians, and the Babylonians are all known to have looked up to, respected, and worshipped the Anunnaki too, though there is still a great deal we still do not know about them. The earliest record we have of the Anunnaki can be traced back to Sumerian writings, describing the Anunnaki as being descendants of An, the god of the heavens, and Ki, the goddess of the earth, which, as we know from various poems discussed earlier, used to be united as one. So what was the role of the Anunnaki? To determine the fate and the destiny of the humans here on Earth. The vast majority of the evidence we have to support the ideas surrounding the Anunnaki comes from the written word. Furthermore, whilst texts typically only refer to the group as a set unit, drawn, visual depictions only seem to show the Anunnaki as individuals, with only 2 or 3 members being identified from these images. The understanding of these gods from Mesopotamia is mixed, though many historians think they were believed to have had powers, of being incredibly large in physical size, being covered in a frightening substance referred to as melum, and more often than not, the Anunnaki wore horned caps. For the Sumerians specifically, the mythology surrounding the Anunnaki was a little different. The group was made of the 7 gods who decree, meaning An, Enlil, Enki, Ninhursag, Nana, Utu, and Inanna. These have all been described as Anunnaki, though we have no complete list that has survived and stood the test of time. Many argue about the true number of Anunnaki, whilst others argue over what their official role was. In Sumerian mythology, many of these deities were thought to represent specific celestial bodies. For example, Inanna was thought of as Venus, and Utu the sun. Though this went further, with An and Enki being in orbit with points that would intersect. This thought and attention to detail, without high-tech equipment, shows such a great sense of promise for the field of astronomy. However, the uncertainty about the Anunnaki does not end there. Some popular conspiracy theories, such as aliens building the pyramids and ideas about reptilian overlords, have been credited to the Anunnaki, with some suggesting these deities are the cause of such sightings and coincidences. Most famously, perhaps, was the 2012 prediction that the Anunnaki would return and wipe out the human race, due to this being the end of the Mesoamerican long count calendar. Perhaps we may never know precisely who the Anunnaki were to the Sumerians, though we have plenty of questions to help us fill in the blanks. Sumer Civilization. The Sumerians were incredibly advanced for one of the earliest known civilizations. Despite their time on Earth occurring incredibly early on, it did not take long for the civilization to thrive. Some of the most important aspects of the Sumerian civilization, from an archaeological, historical, and linguistic point of view, is the writing form. The Sumerians used cuneiform scripts to convey messages engraved into it. This helps us to bridge the gaps between hieroglyphs and runes, which would eventually become the written word. Interestingly, the Sumerian language does not belong to a language group, such as Germanic, Romantic, or Scandinavian languages, and so the language exists somewhat in isolation. Another key cultural aspect is the religious focus and close tie of faith and religion to cosmology. Some other key, surprisingly advanced aspects of Sumerian civilization include agriculture, art, the economy, and technology. All these aspects of the Sumer civilization are what have led to the world as we know it today. Even the most ancient societies can tell us so much about the world as we know it. Hopefully one day we will find out more about those who came before us. But what do you make of this ancient civilization? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.